Are we rolling, Jimmy? Jimmy, are we rolling? That was my Robert Plant imitation, in case everyone is wondering. I'm sure you're like, wow, I actually thought it was him.
Wow, I thought he was a guest.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Summer Sparks and Sparkles. Summertime and the living's easy. How are you doing, Amy?
Very good, but that does, and I think we mentioned this before. That just reminds me of, one of the favorites for me and Melanie is Stones, uh,
Stone
Stones,
So.
Stones All Summer
Yes.
by Fifth Dimension. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not really officially summer yet, right?
No, but we're nearly there. It's Pride Month.
I know.
I'm priding.
I love the necklace. Looks great.
Oh, thank you.
It's so funny. We're both wearing stars today too.
Yay. Well, you could say stars are sparkles. I think they kind of are. And also, of course, you have the sparkles on your glasses. So that's cool. What I was going to say was this is another Teddy Divine item. So the only thing is this is my second, I think, star necklace from them. And you just got to be real careful. You can't just shove it in a drawer, which is sort of my style far too often. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Teddy Divine. And Teddy, if you're listening, I am really happy to continue modeling necklaces throughout our Sparks and Sparkles time. Anyway, enough of that. This is our part 2 of talking about the wonderful Indiscreet. Shall we start with the sparkles at this point?
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you have?
So I actually don't have any sparkles today. Well, I don't have any alcoholic sparkles today. I'm not feeling great.
Okay.
But I am enjoying, some Soda Stream sparkling seltzer and lime.
Hey,
so, cheers.
Hey, that's cool. You don't have to have alcohol to have a good time.
Normally I do it. I did actually have the thought. I did actually think, I might feel better if I do drink. Wise words.
That is wise. Drinking. I'm sorry to say I have alcohol. Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. I have something I actually just picked up at Trader Joe's. It's called French Fizz Le Rosé. It's only like $6 or so, which, with inflation as it is, you got to say this is a good buy. But is it any good? We're going to find out. So this is so cute. And you can reuse this if you want for when you're making your own French Fizz at home.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers. Well, this is actually quite nice. It's light. It tastes a little bit like maybe a slightly alcoholic 7-Up. I don't know if that's...
So is it with sweets?
It's not too sweet. There's like a little bit of a fruity note to it. It's made in France. So...
Fabrique en France.
French Fizz. It's all right. It's J.L. Kinson. I don't know. Maybe... Anyway, nice. Cheers. Yeah. Cheers to that. So we had a wonderful, to just sort of recap things for those of us who are joining you. For those of you who are joining us for part 2, we talked a little bit about the history of Indiscreet. We talked about how much we love this album. I would definitely put this at, the top of favorite Sparks albums for me. It feels like an old friend that I've only known for not even a year, but I know we're going to be close for a long time. Is how I feel. So we've turned the album over and
dropped the needle after a
down.
Couple of
and we've finally gotten to Pineapple, which it preparation for this podcast, Amy was also listening to this and at one point sent me a message. I actually had my speakers plugged into my phone or like set up to my phone when I saw Amy had left me a voice message. So I pressed play and it was just really loud, pineapple.
I have to say, like that, I have been thinking about you this week and just enjoying that. Just pineapple.
Oh, so well,
fun.
it fulfills every need.
That's right. It really does.
Question for you. How do you feel about this song? Like, I like it. I definitely like it. It is one of those songs that like stays in your head for a really long time. And there's a few of those on this album for me.
Yeah, I agree. This is one where like after I listen to it, the next couple days I just have in my head. I like this song. I think it's super catchy. It's got some really lovely, I think it's got some really fun musical moments in it for me from a instrumentation standpoint. So I'll talk about in a moment, but I give it 2 thumbs up. I like this one. But I will say I didn't remember. Oh, sorry. I didn't love it the first time I heard it, but after listening to it a couple times, then I think I was really brought in by the joy of the song.
I think this is another song where Russell, like, he read some information about pineapples. Like, obviously this was written in the 70s. So these days, Russell would go to Wikipedia for his source, but back then he probably
Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest or an encyclopedia, because the whole beginning, like, in turn fueling greater demand, doesn't really sound like lyrics to me. But what was I going to say? One thing I really love about this song is that people still bring pineapples to various Sparks gatherings. I think that's really,
awesome.
Really
oh, yay.
And I agree, it is really catchy. But it's, I'm just, earlier this week, I went to a very, I think, rather strange winery. For those of you who are in the Los Angeles area, if you ever want a quick wine visit, I don't know if you know this, but there is a San Antonio winery that's just outside of downtown LA. A friend of mine and I took the train to go there. And there's a reason I'm telling this story. Oh, yes, I remember. So we decided to take a train. She lives in Long Beach. I live in Santa Monica. Meet in downtown. Then we cabbed it to this place. Anyway, on my way, there was someone with his baby daughter, and they were cute. I'm going to give you that. However, the dad was playing very loudly Baby Shark to entertain the child, and I considered that a bit of a hate crime. But luckily, I had music, so I turned my headphones up really loud. Then I got to this winery, which is like definitely the strangest winery I've ever been to. It feels like it's frozen in time in the 1970s. And for those of you who live in the Los Angeles area and see these like constant billboards for Stella Rosa wine, and you've always wondered about it, guess what? That's where they make it. Who knew? Anyway, really? Yes, really. While we were at this winery, they had a guitarist who was playing different tunes, quite lovely. And at the end of the afternoon, he played Baby Shark. The bastard. I was like, why is this song following my life? It is following my life. And why do I bring this up? Because, as we all know, Baby Shark is very catchy. And I feel like Pineapple is like that too. If you hear it once, it's going to be in your head for like the next 2.5 weeks. So
yeah, the other thing I think you were telling me about this winery is that it felt a little bit like a cafeteria.
It did.
And that you felt, it did feel like it was, when did this album come out? 75?
Yes.
74, 75. You said like, it did feel like, it felt like the late 70s, early 80s, like going to a mall restaurant with your grandparents.
It did. It did. I could definitely see grandparents getting into this place.
Yeah, you were like, isn't that Father Michael over there?
Yes, that's how I felt. I felt like the parish priest from my childhood was there with his bevy of female followers from the local church. That's the vibe. And I also felt like if this place was not in California but was in Chicago, it'd be, right by the airport, and a lot of salt of the earth types would be going there on the
Big
weekends.
up with fried chicken and spaghetti.
Yeah, yes. But the menu'd be a little bit more Italian, is what I thought.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah, no, it was quite the experience.
But you did say on your way home you saw a coffee house called Equator.
Yes, and on the way home, just looking out the window, daydreaming, listening to, oh my gosh, should I admit this on the Sparks and Sparkles podcast? Yes, I think I should. I am a big fan. I'm
there's no
sorry,
secrets.
everybody. I'm a big fan of the Escape channel on Sirius. I don't know if you know this channel. It's basically all music. It's all music and covers of instrumentals of pop songs you have known, and they pretty much tap out around 1992. So you might hear an instrumental version of Walking in Memphis, but you're probably not going to hear anything much beyond that.
But you got some Carpenters, you've got some Journey.
Yes, and actually the best thing about it to me is it's a complete free for all. Like, if you listen to any other station, it is programmed. These guys, I feel like they just have a catalog of things that were made, that there were instrumental versions made of, and they just throw it out there. So you might hear Michael Bolton, How Am I Supposed to Live Without You, but an instrumental version. And then you might hear a little Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Then you might hear I'm Still Standing, instrumental version. Then you might hear, I don't know, Moonlight. And then you might hear an electronic version of the intro to Swan Lake. Like, I mean, which that is, I'm just trying to think, what did I hear on the train? So I'm just chilling, waiting to see what wonderful nugget's gonna pop up on the Escape channel again or next. And I look out the window and I see the Equator Cafe, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly how I pictured it. This is exactly how I picture the Equator song. We could, Amy, next year on March the 10th, you and I could go there and just,
we'll host a Sparks.
You know what we could do? We could invite Sparks fans from around the world. But here's, you know what we could do? We could invite them March 10th, 3 p.m. But half the people who RSVP don't show up. Like, you decide, are you going or are you not? Because that'll be part of the fun. And then we'll be like, surely we set it for 3 p.m. Surely we said it was March 10th. So yes, there's an Equator Cafe in West Los Angeles.
Nice.
And also, I would like to now take this moment to issue a formal apology to Ron and Russell Mail for comparing Pineapple to Baby Shark. Because obviously, Pineapple's a better song. There's, in my opinion, there's a lot more going on.
There is a lot going on. Yeah. Because one of the things I really like about this song, there's a couple little instrumentation things which make it feel even more whimsical than it already is, or maybe it feels whimsical because of them. I love that it opens with just like a cappella voices and the oohs in the background, and then you get this, bass line coming in, or vamping piano with some electric guitar, but then the bass line, it sounds like a tuba or a baritone or maybe a bass trombone. Mm-hmm. And I really just enjoyed that the bass line was a brass instrument. It gives it kind of a little bit of a more old-timey feel. And then there are just some really other lovely moments throughout the song. Let's see, what else did I note? There's some really fun points when they get to the refrain where they're singing, pineapple shares are going to divide. where the lead guitar, I think electric guitar, is playing in unison with the vocal line, and then it goes into like a little counterpoint. It's just like a nice little moment that one of the things I really was thinking about with this album specifically is that they're just, and I guess the other two we've covered so far, is they're just these lovely, just really musical moments that could have just been throwaway. Like the song would have been fine without them. It would have been perfectly enjoyable without a little guitar counterpoint, but it's still there. And I think it's really what makes these songs so interesting to listen to.
And it's interesting too that Pineapple's coming off. It's right before How You Getting Home, which has a very different feel.
It's right after.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, it's coming after that. Sorry, I don't know what exactly I said, but yeah, it's right after How You Getting Home, which has a totally different feel. And then, of course, it's right before Tits, which also has a completely different feel. Again, sort of fueling my speculation that this is kind of a Sparks, Sgt. Pepper's sort of album.
Yeah, you know, so you're right, because the songs on this last side are all so different, both musically, subject matter, and they're all so wonderfully unique. And it's great to hear them together. In fact, I was going to talk about this a little bit later when we get into Tits, but some of these ones take me back to that feeling that I had listening to Come On in My House. Was like, I want to stage it. Like some of these songs would make my Broadway production, especially Tits, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But
I'm ready to go to Tits. Are you?
Well, let's see. What else did I note about Pineapple? I know you and I were talking about this. Sure, the kids will throw it far because it ain't a chocolate bar line.
That's my favorite line. Sure, the kids will throw it real far if it ain't a milk chocolate bar. And you're right, Russell. I think you're right.
I mean, really. But what I realized in re-listening to it was at that point they introduced like kind of like a treble synthesizer, which actually gives it a little bit even more of a playful kid sound, not kids, but a playful sound, and it just they just layer and layer on top of it. It's super fun. And the ending, one of the things I was laughing about was I was reading the lyrics, and you know, I love, you said it sounds like it was an article he read, and I feel like it was like a Wall Street Journal article maybe. Like, because they say shares are going to divide.
Oh, yes.
If an as will combine fulfills the upward trends are foreseen. So invest in Big P. Big Pineapple. So it's a really fun. And then, you know, they end as they open with that a cappella sound, and then like the staccato piano, and it sounds like you're going to go into another verse, but it's the end of the song. And what I find really interesting here is that it goes right into the song called Tits. Almost like they're just the same song or connected and somehow. Yes.
I want to ask you about Tits.
Oh yeah, we got. You know, I have a lot to say about that.
I'm so excited that we're finally going to talk about Tits. It's really been what do you think that song is about?
We talked before about audacity, and like it's very audacious to put a song called Tits on your album when it's 1974. That was like, I'm surprised it wasn't censored. Like it really, it's one of those things that's like, I couldn't, in some ways I was so surprised that it was a term and a song that was used. And this song, I was thinking about how the song has evolved for me the more I've listened to it. And wait, now what was your question?
What's the song about?
First of all, the first time I listened to it, you know, I just laughed because the term was tits, and then it's got that hilarious line about you know, they're for kind of blanking at the line.
They all look good for 3 or 4.
Well, no, that one.
I'm going to come back to that line.
Yeah, that one. But you know, for months and years, tits were once a source of fun and games at home, and now they're just here to feed our little Joe. So that just made me laugh, and that was as far as I went with this song. And then as I continued to listen to it, I really started to enjoy the sort of drinking song piece of it, and it's got some really beautiful melodic lines that bum 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 bum.
For this, what's the
4/4.
tempo? It is 4/4. It sounds a little
Bum,
bit
ba, 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 ba,
oompa-push.
ba. The reason why, yeah, it does. They do, because so the reason why is because in the opening, in some of the I guess refrains, they're kind of like a da, 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 da. It almost feels like a 2/4, but it's actually 4/4. But then it really goes into 4/4 because they get into drink, drink da 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 ba 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 ba. Then I started to really then I started to listen closer at what was being sung. And I had these moments of listening to the song where towards the end, especially when he sings, Harry, I know it's you, don't say a word, just forgive me, let's just drink one more. The way that he sings Harry is really powerful and moving.
Yes.
And it leads me to think about one of the reasons why I was thinking about, like, oh yeah, this is again one you could stage. I love that they, in a lot of their songs, they actually, like we were talking about the last time, how the songs are like these little moments in time. There's little vignettes, a day in the life of, or a conversation that somebody, it's a encapsulated moment. And one of the things that makes that really resonate with me is the fact that they use names. They use these names of characters. He didn't have to say Harry. They didn't have to say tits are only there to feed our little Joe. What was it, ABC or BBC? Oh, from propaganda.
Oh, BC.
BC. He, is Betty and Charlie, and like they use these characters within these vignettes, and I think that really does lend itself to this little moment in time that you're just sort of peeking in on. I really enjoy that.
Maybe you've heard this in your performance training, but I took a number of improv classes earlier this year, and one of the things we were encouraged to do in little scenes that we did was create names for characters, because it just causes you to engage more. It helps you kind of develop your story, and it helps the audience too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of John Hodgman, who, I don't know if you know who he
Yes, I do.
is.
Yeah.
But he on his podcast, he often will tell people specificity is the soul of narrative. And it's something that it's like, man, it's such a good point. Like, it's the little details that do bring you into the story. So yeah, and then I was like, of course, then I was overthinking, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like Falstaff with Henry V, who he called Harry. Like, oh, it's like that. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking way too much about the song. It's really good, but it's
no, you're not.
crazy.
It's Sparks. We have a podcast about it. You're not. This is material.
Well, kind of when we listened to Come On My House, you said several times, like, it just, so many of the songs felt like they could be cabaret numbers, because they are these just incredible moments in time. And I really think the song digs into it. And for people who maybe haven't read the lyrics, I mean, the plot of the song is, two friends drinking, and one saying, my wife is seeing someone, and then through the course of the song you find out he knows that his wife is seeing his friend Harry. Honestly, in my staging, I think I'd have the main character try to poison Harry with his drink.
Well, I was always wondering why he's really forcing him to drink so many drinks. Like, is he just trying to kill Harry through alcohol poisoning? Or is it just... Because I mentioned this on our part 1, that I believe Ron Mael hears throwaway lines and then builds entire songs about them. We see some possible proof of that in the Sparks Brothers movie, because Music That You Can Dance To was apparently written after someone said, why isn't there any music that you can dance to? in this. And I personally, and I might have said this on the previous podcast, so we'll cut this out if I have, but I personally think Ugly Guys with Beautiful Girls, that was like 100% somewhere where I hear that.
Yeah.
And with Tits, I think the throwaway line that this whole song was built around was, they all look good after 3 or 4. Like, you can just put yourself 1974 England in a pub after a show with a bunch of guys in a band, maybe a few roadies, probably having a look at the nubiles and be like, hey, you know, they all look good after 3 or 4. I can totally see Ron building the entire song around this lyrics. Am I right? I have no way of knowing. It's just my theory.
Well, you know, what I think is very interesting about that line is at the beginning of the song, it says they all look good after 3 or 4. But by the end of the song, they all taste good after 3 or 4. To me, it's really
all so good.
Well, I think that my understanding and how I've heard it too is that as they're continuing to drink, they're talking less about tits and more about actually drinking and getting drunk and that drive to drink. I mean, it's also good after 3 or 4.
It's also good. I'm looking at the lyrics. It's also good.
Right. There's another line that said this, that so in one of the verses it says they all taste good after 3 or 4.
Right.
So the reason why I bring this up is because this line to me really sticks out to me, both musically and because of the evolution of the term. And you know, there is that aspect of drinking, like the process of getting drunk. You hit number 3 and you're starting to just feel better, like that's that point where you're having more fun. If you were upset about something, you're getting less upset. Like it's that pre-maudlin drunken part of the drink. You know what I mean? Like, and so exactly it's like that magic time where you're like drinking and like, I'm gonna feel like this forever. Let's have another one. And you forget, like, oh wait, but after like 5 or 6, that's when I want to kill myself or whatever your thing is.
So my husband, he is from England. And that's why I can speak British and American in case people are wondering. But
like Madonna.
Like Madonna, yes.
Like
very,
Madonna.
very
and Russell,
much so.
And Russell.
Russell,
no.
And Russell, yes, and Russell. But anyway, his nan had a saying about beers, that there are 4 kinds of beers. A talking beer, a laughing beer, a singing beer, and a crying beer. These are the 4 beers that you will drink when you're out. So there you go. You're right. If you get to 4, you might be moving into the crying beer.
Totally.
But I also kind of think you could probably do talking, laughing, crying, singing. I think this is another. I never knew the order.
Whatever, you know, it's every individual's journey.
You do you.
Yeah, this song has just so much in it. And I love the different musical sections of the song. You know, there's sort of the lyrical, pretty melody, and then a drinking song. And then these points where you get, where we're just talking about that, where they go, you know, it's all so good after 3 or 4, where they repeat it a couple times. The lead into that is just like a single line piano, right hand, playing that melody, bum, 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 or however it goes. And then the other instruments come in and it becomes this really driving rhythm. It's a very powerful music moment to me. And I think combined with the great singing and the acting portion of it, this song makes me think about something we've talked about with other Spark songs, and especially more recent Spark songs, about their use of repetition and how they, like, Home is an amazing song. It's this, you know, the same lyrics, same line, but every time it's done with a little more flavor, a little more this, a little more that, to the point where it becomes really powerful. And I think you start to see that them develop that technique in this period of time. And with this song for me, it's really, I think about that repetition, and side A, they did that as well. Anyway,
Tits, the song, for me, it's not my favorite on this at all. And in fact, whenever it starts, I'm like, oh yeah, we're at Tits. Like, that's kind of
because we gotta talk about this. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your flow, but I'm gonna do it.
Interrupt my flow. I will come
that
back. That
beginning is so bonkers too. Like that beginning. Do you remember the band Morphine? It was like late 90s, and I think that they're part
Chicago.
of their.
This Chicago is not Chicago. Saskatoon is in the room. Boost Bose. Nice. Yes, I do.
I always think about that band in this beginning, because I think that, if I recall, they had like a bass drum and then some other instrument that like wasn't a guitar.
Had a saxophone.
That was it. It was bass. It was a bass guitar, a drums, and a saxophone. They didn't have any guitar.
Voice.
Like, they didn't have actual guitar. So it had a real sexy voice, and the overall sound was a very haunting kind of sound, and that's what this sounds like to me. That's the heavy. It comes in with this like heavy drum, and then the boom, 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 boom before you get the melody. It sounds like a drunken person walking, I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
1970s pub. I can like smell the stale beer. I can feel the stein in my hand of Watney's Red Barrel. So yes. Okay. No, what I was going to say is, when I hear that beginning, I'm like, oh, it's Tits again. Like it's not my favorite at all. And in fact, we're going to get to one that is one of my favorites in just a minute. But I really love all the musical changes that it goes through. And then at the end, where it sort of fades out on these synthesizers, that is another one of those moments that I feel like it could, because that song at the beginning, and honestly, calling it Tits and the lyrics, everything feels very 70s to me. However, when I get to that end with those synthesizers, again, that's very 80s to me.
Yeah.
And I'm always impressed that Sparks are always doing something that no other band is doing at that time. And then it's kind of like when I listen to gratuitous sax, I'm always impressed that they actually used auto-tune on it. Like, auto-tune was very new at that moment. People were not using it all the time, but here Sparks are using it. And so again, really like going hard on those synthesizers. People were starting to use them at that time, but it's still, that is actually my favorite part of the song, when those synthesizers sort of fade aside.
Yes, agree. And I love that the synthesizers are treated like a violin, or like this. I mean, it just adds such lovely flavor. And I like the end of as well. I'm not a huge, fade outs aren't my favorite, but I don't mind it on this one. It fades out and then it goes into, it's a hoedown, not a slow down.
It goes into It Ain't 1918.
Turkey in the straw.
Right, it is like a total hoedown. This is an album that has so many musical changes. And I forgot, I think, so I have watched the new series of The Kids in the Hall, which
Joe was watching some of it.
Yeah, if you love the original series, you're not going to be disappointed with the reboot. It's pretty good, I think.
I will say
it's their best work in a long time.
I wasn't, my husband was watching it and I was doing something else, so I watched a little bit, but then got, whatever, I was in the other room. But I have to tell you, one of the things that I had such a nostalgia every time, because they use the same opening theme. I mean, we were talking before about like hearing that bass line in that opening theme song. Hearing that just brought back so many memories for me.
Oh yeah,
and it was really like I felt like, because I remembered when that show first came out, and like oh, okay, we're hearing the theme song. It's a new episode. And I got that feeling, like, oh yay, it's a new episode.
It's a great theme tune. I don't know if you know the band who does it. They're called Shadowy Men on a Shadowy Planet.
Oh yeah,
I actually had that
I've heard of
album.
them.
The album is I think that I'm not sure. I don't think that theme is on that. The theme has a great name too. It's something like Weekend Afternoon or something. Like it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
But I did have their album Dim the Lights, Chill the Ham, which is like
Yeah,
also
I
great
remember that. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Like, yeah,
yeah.
it's all coming back now.
But the reason, well, and now that we've mentioned Kids in the Hall, I have to say one of the things I've realized watching the reboot is that I've had like a 20+ year crush on Dave Foley. I feel like he could do no wrong in my eyes. In
Yeah.
every costume, I don't
Yeah.
care what he's wearing. I still am like, yeah.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, call me.
I liked when Bruce McCullough, I think at the very beginning,
also
like,
Bruce. I mean, all of them really, but Dave number one.
He goes, "Am I still the cute one?"
Yes, there's actually, and I have been quoting this line because I have a bunch of friends who are in their early 50s. There is a line, and I cannot remember who says it, but I'm the baby. I'm only 59. And so I've been saying, but I'm the baby. I'm only 49. But anyway, I watched the reboot. It was really good. And I was reading a little bit of press that they had done, in anticipation of the reboot. One of the things that they mentioned about how they do their skits is they really think about the order. They think the order is really important. And in fact, they referred to Sergeant Pepper's and said, one of the reasons, whoever this was, it might have even been Dave. One of the reasons Sergeant Pepper's sounds so great is because of the order. And we always think about that when we're putting together our sketches. And I'm thinking that our lads here, Ron and Russell, probably thought a lot about the order for this too.
Yeah, we talked about Sergeant Pepper's last time, and absolutely the same things apply. Towards the end of this album, I started thinking about, this was also the period of time where, like, when did the Who's Tommy came out?
I think you're right. I think it was right around this time. It might have even been 75. Let's check, but maybe yeah, the movie came out in 1975.
Yeah. So in some ways too, I was thinking, because I was back to my, like, I'm staging it. I was like, there really is that aspect of like the rock opera, and like you said, Sergeant Pepper's, and the way that the pacing of the albums. And not today, because we have plenty of other stuff to talk about, but I would be really interested to talk, with you about what do we think we've gained and what do we think we've lost with the restrictions that albums put on to the composition of the album. Like, it could only be so many songs. There was only so much recording time. Songs were typically only X amount of time, which I can debate. Historically, they were shorter too. Anyway, whatever. But like with electronic music and streaming music and EPs were really big, I think, in the 2000s. And then but now we've kind of gone back to releasing full albums. To me, that whole evolution has been really, really interesting. And I'd love to just talk with you about it sometime.
That is so interesting. I will just say personally, I will contextualize this in a minute, but personally, I don't feel really sad or happy about those changes. I would just say I don't care, but that's when I say I don't care, what I mean is, like, some people I know feel really sad about that. I feel like, well, music changes. The people who are making it change, generations change. So of course, the way in which it's consumed, and that experience is going to change. And I'm really good with that. In fact, I will tell you, this is another little detour. Tonight, what's happening right now as we're recording in London is the very last Ducky at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. Ducky as an organization is going to continue. So for those of you who don't know, Ducky is a wonderful, long-running, post-gay club night that's been going at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, which is it's been a gay pub in London for centuries. Ducky itself is not going away, but they are leaving the Royal Vauxhall Tavern. So that is really sad because they've been there since 1995. And, I'm here in LA. I lived in London for 10 years. I would love to be there right now. I wish I could magic myself there. And of course, I'm sad that it's ending. Of course, I'm sad that it's ending. However, the other thing I think is that the people who started it are now in their 50s. They started it in their 20s. Now they're in their 50s. You know what? It is time for them to move over and make room for people who are in their 20s or teens or 30s to create what they want to create. And I'm actually all for that. That's kind of my attitude about it.
Yeah, and when I asked about how you feel, that was so interesting, because when I asked about how you feel, I didn't mean like emotionally. I more meant like, how do we think it's impacted music production? How do we feel like it's impacted us as listeners and consumers of music? But I love that you did immediately go to how does it make you feel, because you're right, that is the first, as much as we don't want to admit it, that is the first point of emotion for all of us, is how we react to stuff like that.
And you know what? Again, coming back to our very first Sparks and Sparkles podcast, to me, this is one reason why I think, let's be women talking about music that we care about. We're going to look at it in a different way. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to talk about, and I know #not all women, is how it makes me feel, and unapologetically so. But where were we? Oh, we were at 8:19. You know what? Do you remember the first time I played this for you?
No.
Okay, this was December of last year when we were kicking back at your place, drinking sparkling beverages and watching Sparks videos, and we were playing all of Indiscreet. We got to this song, and your verdict was, this is very pretentious. That's where the pretentious comment comes from.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't remember. You and your elephant-like memory. But I can see why, again, when we talked about that before, like, do I think it's pretentious anymore? No, not really. But we did talk about the fact that I could see why that indulgent. Why, thank you. Why that did get that reaction, because it's a rock album, and we've already gone, we've had Haydn, we've had now we've got American, like Appalachian, I don't know, folk. Well, I guess you're in Missouri, but I actually like. I don't hate the song. I don't love it, but there are there's some really fun moments in it. What do you like about it?
I am always a fan of lyrics. I love Rod Mail's witticism. Like, we were just finished talking about tits. I can personally, in my mind, I see Ron snickering as he's like coming up with the title of this song, getting it on the album, and both of them snickering.
I know, right?
Actually.
Yeah.
But no, I actually love that this is a story about two people who sort of like froze themselves in time, and then a bunch of do-gooders decided to help them, and then they didn't want the help, and they're like, well, if we can't be happy, neither can you. That is like it's a great ending to me.
It's a great ending. I love, there's some really great lyrics here. I love that they mentioned the Stanley Steamer, which I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was
really.
It was an automobile that was invented in it was in the, I think it was invented in the like 1910s. It could have been a little bit earlier, but it was actually at that time when they were trying to determine which car was going to make it. It was a car that was more like a steam engine technology, like a train was at the time. So rather than like the internal combustible engine with the diesel fuel that actually was adopted, this was, I'd have to read up on it, but anyway, it was an early option of cars that was, I think, driven by coal and steam power. So there we go, the Stanley Steamer. It's not just an upholstery cleaning service.
Very funny. Shall we move on to The Lady Is Lingering?
I think yes.
I've been like basically just waiting this whole conversation out for us to get to the ladies lingering. I fucking love this song. Now, in my alternative Sparks universe, where Sparks were like just global superstars throughout the 70s in all countries, two Sparks songs would still be getting constant airplay, you know, on 70 stations and maybe other things too. One, their cover of I Want to Hold Your Hand, I feel like should have been a hit, but wasn't. And Lady is Lingering. Why are we not
Oh my
hearing
God.
this on 8 million
Such a
rock song
phenomenal
stations
song.
all the time? It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. Amy, tell me what you think of this song, what you want to share about it.
So there's two things that I think of every time I hear it. First of all, this is just a sexy, sensuous. I love the classic Hollywood sensuality of it.
Oh,
I love, I love the sensuality of this song, and pretty straight sensuality. Not, there's no little jokes in here. There's no little like haha moments that we have in a lot of other Spark songs. The other thing I was
where
thinking,
are all those funny phrases?
well, yeah, it's just a straight like meow sexy song. The other thing I think about it every time I hear it is this is like if side A were How You Getting Home, side B would be The Lady Is Lingering, because it's like
Ooh,
two different hookup songs,
Melly
but
Life.
so different,
Or rather, Amy, in How You Getting Home, a man's trying to take a woman's agency from her, but in The Lady Is Lingering, the woman's taking control. Hmm.
Is she though? She's giving a lot of hints, but it sounds like the
She's
singer is
lingering.
still saying like
Lingering.
he's lingering. And we've talked before about, Joe's philosophy. Hey, if a lady talks to you, she wants to have sex with you. You should just go for it. So
Uh,
if a lady is lingering, might as well go for it.
yeah, no, this is a, okay, I think this song, first of all, it's got power pop 70s amazingness all over
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
I'm
it
trying to
does.
think of another 70s song. I can't think of a song that it reminds me of other 70s songs, but I can't think of a specific one. Um
Yeah, I
one
think
that like just comes in very strong and
that,
yes.
the opening, and it opens really strong, and I agree. It actually sounds the most of the period, one of the most of the period songs
Yes.
on this album.
I agree.
I think because of like the guitar, and it's got the strong bass, and it's got the heavy piano, um, and it's just got such a great like kind of lyrical line. I haven't listened. I will admit, in my preparation for our episode, this is where I stopped. I just didn't
That's
get time to do it.
okay.
So I
That's
haven't
okay.
listened closely at the instrumentation, but I agree with you. It sounds most like a 70s song, and just a really good one.
Yes. Every sip is of the smallest quantity that still reveals a certain thirst. Um, she's thirsty. I also like the way Russell sings a look, a touch, a sigh. Woo!
Oh,
Woo!
yeah, it is.
Loaded. Yeah, no, this is a great one. I can also this song is like covered in red velvet for me. Like I can see red velvet shag. I think you're right. This definitely has a classic
A
70s feel
classic
to it.
romantic. I mean, even earlier time, it's got a very like uh I don't like like almost a pre 70s where, casual sex was becoming more and more frequent. The free love movement had happened, you know, 20, 30 years before that. You did have to rely more on these like signals, and what in the like regency period or whatever, like how the fan was being held, and that meant one thing and another, like all of these really subtle physical um exchanges. It is very sexy. It's very sensuous. I love that. Yeah, I love it swathed in red velvet.
It feels that way to me. And I can also see like red that like I feel like the room that they're in, like I'm just gonna like I would put this in my music hall and you're in a super 70s room. Like, think red shag carpeting, think velvet bell bottoms, think like tons of smoke, think wine bottles with like that paper around them, like that's where we are for this song. And I love is there anything else you want to say about the musical arrangement of it, or shall we move
like
on?
as I said, I didn't dig too. I just didn't have the time to prep, but yeah, it's just meow.
So this is actually my favorite part of the album, and I feel like, you've got The Lady Is Lingering, then In the Future, which I also just fucking love,
Me too.
love, love. And the funny thing is, In the Future, or sorry, Lady Is Lingering, as we said, sounds classic 70s. In the Future does actually sound like it could have come out today.
It is out of space and out of time. It is so incredible. Oh yeah. Yeah, I love this part too. Both of these songs, when they come on, I just joy. I have genuine feelings of joy.
I also love Russell's crazed delivery of the lyrics.
In the future.
Yes, you'll love it. I know it. I know what you like, and you'll love it. Ah!
Yeah, so one of the things I was thinking about with this song, and again, I didn't prep very well, but it has these moments where it's like it's a rock opera, it's an 80s movie, it's it's something happening today, it's something happening in the 70s. Like, it just has these like measure to measure tastes across rock music. It's so incredibly interesting. And I mean, I'm interested to know, because when I listen to it, there's definitely some bands that I think of, like I hear a little Devo in there. What do you, I don't know,
I can't think of a specific band that it reminds me of. Maybe Beck a little bit.
I mean, yeah, because it changes so much. Oh, Beck, yeah.
But I feel like this could have been a cut on an album that I picked up at any time between like 1993 and now, from a sort of like alternative band. This doesn't sound 70s-ish in any way. It doesn't sound, like even if we listen, to me, no, I don't think it does at all. When you hear something like Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and I'm just kind of thinking of, or Kraftwerk, or Number One in Heaven. So, kind of that Giorgio Moroder. At the time, that all sounded super futuristic. I still think it sounds amazing. I love that sound. Same with New Order. Love that sound. But it also now sounds of its time to me. Like it sounds like something that came out when synthesizers were like really hot. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this doesn't have that. It's futuristic, which makes sense because it's about the future. But I don't feel like I can pin this to a specific spot in time. Like I
agree with that.
Number One in Heaven to the 80s easily. I can pin I Feel Love to the 70s.
But what I find interesting is that you said 92. When I hear the song, it sounds a very 80s to me. And in a good way. Like, again, like 80s plus.
I would go.
It's 80s. Like it jumps around into so many decades.
I feel like, you know what? I feel like it's that frenetic. Yeah, maybe. But I feel like, why don't I feel like this is 80s? I don't know if I can articulate it as well as you can, but what I would say is, like, you've got that sort of staccato, but then the way in which it's sung is kind of all over the place in a way that later in musical time to me. That's what I would say.
That's a good point. Yeah. Oh, it is an incredibly just unusual, interesting, where did this come from song.
And can I say, I'm also going to put this in my Sparks are actually time travelers.
Yes.
Because
this song convinces me almost more than anything else. Literally, the future is fun. How did they know?
Here's why I was going to say it's because they have the lyrics, I'll be there, it's up to you, you'll be there if you don't do nothing foolish. So they already know they're going to be there. That's what I'm going to say. See,
They knew.
Yeah, they knew. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is such a neat song and such a different sound. And then you go into looks, which,
and I love the way it goes from those like little beeps at the end of Future to
yes, yeah.
I love that. I love it.
I feel like a lot of the songs on this side, especially the side, sounds like one big song in some ways.
Yes,
because they really, that transition is amazing.
What was I going to say? You know, there was that trend in the 70s, I think, to like kind of go back to that 40s big band style. There were a few people who did that, like Bette Midler. She had a number of hits like that. Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy, I think she had a hit with. So when I hear Sparks doing big band, my immediate thought, and actually how I first felt about this song when I first heard it, was like, oh God, really? You know, like, hey, I mean, obviously, because I was a little baby when this album came out. I wasn't listening to Sparks. I was listening to I don't know, Orleans. Or the Doobie Brothers.
I was going to say, knowing your dad, you were listening to something pretty cool as a baby.
Dr. John, probably, but
from your crib.
From my crib, yes. But of course, I remember the '90s swing moment, and of course, and I was and am still a big fan of the Squirrel Nut Zippers. But in general, I was not a big fan of this, like, let's go back to the big band song. But this song has hugely grown on me. It's a wonderful song.
Yeah, I agree. You know, and I kind of skipped over it with we kind of went from it in 1918, but one of the things I don't recall if I said earlier is that song, it's not just a hoedown fiddle. Like, yes, that is part of it, and they've got clapping, so it sounds very, historical, but they layer in those electric guitars and the drums, and there are these moments where it's suddenly, a modern song. It's not a hoedown song. It's something that's more rock and roll. And I feel like looks kind of skirts that line a little bit. Like it really is that big band sound, but they've got then these moments where it does feel a little bit more like a rock song, which is so fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, of course, the lyrics are also really fun. Looks, or why you rely on books. And again, I love the way Russell sings this. I like a lot here. Spot her error. Now she's all over you. But this is great. This is a great song.
I think my favorite line is the face that launched 1,000 hits.
Oh yes, I was thinking about that line today.
Well, the other thing that I was just actually looking up back on the Wikipedia article, this song and Get in the Swing were released as singles.
Yes.
And to me, it's such an interesting choice. And to your point, like, I kind of understand why there was a moment in time where and I'm looking at the singles. It says singles, Get in the Swing with Profile, and then Looks was the other single that was released with Pineapple. It just seems like they seem like odd selections. Get in the Swing and Looks.
On the other hand, if you think they both would allow Ron and Russell to wear sort of like band uniforms.
But I mean, but what about, I'm curious, what else was going on culturally and musically at this time where those were, you know, those were the ones that they thought were going to really make the airwaves.
Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they didn't have to choose.
I think there's probably a reason why. I just would be really interested to, obviously I haven't cracked the code, but like we talked, you mentioned, yes, there was like the big band resurgence, and we talked before about how like Bonnie and Clyde, that movie, had come out, and The Sting, and so there was also this kind of like throwback to the 20s, and so culturally there were these like historical references becoming popular again.
I think
maybe they just jumped on that.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of nostalgia, because if you think about the age of the people who would have been listening to that in their 20s and 30s, they would have been very young, or maybe kind of the way I feel about the 60s is it feels so close, and I'm very interested in it, but I was never there for it. Like I find the 60s just a really fascinating decade, because I wasn't there, but then I was there just a few years later. So like, you'll see pictures of your family and things that you recognize, and it looks really close, but it's not. So I don't know. I just wonder if there's some of that nostalgia.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. You totally nailed it. And then we go into such a sweet ending.
Miss the start, miss the end, where Russell sounds extremely British to me on this one. Miss the start, miss the end. I have to say, this song was in my head, I feel like, for a month. Like, it's like just constantly da 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 da. Which, is that just like a regular chord?
So here are some of the things that are going on with the music, or with the lead musical line. So the beginning of it is so you have, obviously, chords are made up of notes in the scale. What you were just doing is actually just a scale: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, do re mi fa sol la ti do ti re. I can't go backwards, but whatever. So there's scales, and then the other thing you do when you have chords is you play the multiple notes together, or you can play them individually, which is called an arpeggio. So if you were going like do mi so mi bum 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 bum, and what they do at the beginning is that same technique of arpeggios, but I think they're called like open chord arpeggios or something like that, because it's bum 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 bum.
Love it.
Love it. And then, like you said, so they've got these like big open arpeggios, and then the scales that come in. This is a beautiful song, and I feel a little, back to the Time Traveler, I feel like this song, I think of So May We Start when I hear it. I think like these are just, both of these songs are just these really incredible moments. And for some reason, was this song in Annette? I don't remember.
I don't think it was.
It reminds me a lot of the music from Annette.
That's interesting.
But yeah, so you had it in your head for a month, girl.
Oh my God, that we need more than just each other, so much more. We don't need. Yeah, that was in my head for a really long time. I like this song. It feels very different. Like, I could end this on Looks, Looks, Looks. I feel like that would be a fine end, but miss the start, miss it. Maybe it's because I first heard this on the 21st Century edition. So then as soon as I hear this, I'm ready to hear Profile. I'm ready to hear.
Yeah, it's true.
I feel like I'm going into a new part of this album. To me. But yeah, I don't know what to say about the song other than I really enjoy it.
Oh, me too. It has, one of the reasons why I like it, and I like it as the last song on the album, is it really does also give me it's like Bon Voyage at the end of
Love.
I'm blanking.
Propaganda.
Thank you. Also, it's such a beautiful song, and it is sort of this like a lovely end, sailing off into the sea. And I do feel like Miss the Start, Miss the End is like that. But there's something a little more bittersweet about Miss the Start, Miss the End. You know, there's something to me just a little haunted, and we didn't quite make it, but you know, we're gonna have to see how it starts and how it ends, and then tell them what they missed again. I don't know. There's just, it's a very beautiful song, and now I want to listen to it.
Well, I'm also wondering when Russell sings "Miss the Start, Miss the End" because we're such very good friends. It always sounds like a little bit sarcastic to me. Does he mean it? Probably.
Oh, to me, it sounds like a little bitter because of a missed, you know, missed love or missed romance or missed friendship. Something a missed relationship that it anyway.
There's also a little bit of Ron Mail kind of breaking the fourth wall, if I don't know if you can use that metaphor for this, but where he talks about the opening bars and the closing bars might well not exist, or might as well not exist. They're not really needed. The other song that I'm just thinking, there's probably more. There are more, but this just the other one that it comes to my mind. On Exotic Creatures of the Deep, Strange Animal. Do you have you listened to Exotic?
Not yet. I mean, bits of
it. I love that album. That is actually another one of my real favorites. But that song, Strange Animal, at first really annoyed me because it's quite repetitive, and then it grew on me, and now it's one of my favorite Spark songs. But the song is basically about, I feel it's a lot about Ron's writing process. You'll see
yeah,
when you get there. And so like I just like that there's a little bit of that in this song too. This just a little touch of what he's thinking about with the song. Yeah, I guess he does do that quite a bit.
And music, you know, you mentioned, I think on a previous episode, music you can dance to, every note is in its right place. Like, that he it takes those moments and goes with them, and thank goodness.
But that is actually kind of what I mean when I think about what I said on our most recent podcast, where I feel like everything that you love about Sparks really comes together on this album, including that sort of self-referential jokiness, which I love. So thank you guys.
Such good stuff. And
sorry, go ahead.
Yes, you are right. Like because I listened to the digital version, and like then I go to profile. But we're talking about the bonus. I do too, actually. We'll talk about those bonus tracks, but this one, I just I feel like Bon Voyage. It's like a a beautiful send off.
And thus concludes our journey around the Island albums.
Well, thanks. So, hey, thanks again for listening, and thanks for listening to us talk about this wonderful band and amazing musicians and all of that good stuff. So,
and thank you, Ron and Russell, for being awesome musicians and artists and letting us in to your world a little bit.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. You'll love it. I know it. I know what you like, and you'll love it. Ah!